Russell Westbrook has officially passed Oscar Robertson for the record of most triple-doubles in a career at 182. But it seems like the praise really isn't fair that you would think for such a record that no one ever thought was going to be broken. I want to talk about that as well as why Steph Curry seems to still get praised for what he does. All that coming up in about 20 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. And today I want to talk about Russell Westbrook's record and why it's always a battle between him and Steph. So if you've been listening to my podcast and YouTube channel over the years, you know one thing about me is I'm a Thunder fan, but I'm also a big Russell Westbrook fan, loyalist, apologist, whatever you want to call it. And so there's something interesting that's been going on the last few years when it comes to Russ that I understand criticism, but I don't get all the hate. The hate is what throws me off. So Russell Westbrook on Monday surpassed Oscar Robertson for most triple-doubles in a career at 182. Oscar Robertson 181. Very impressive feat. It was one of those that no one ever expected to get broken. Like, at all. Oscar Robertson stopped playing in the 70s. So, since then, no one's actually come close to his record. Because the one thing about the triple-double is that it's really hard to get. Like, it's not as easy as everyone thinks it is. It requires exerting a lot of energy to do it. And it requires a special kind of player to really be able to get them. Hence why Magic Johnsons were so impressive. Jason Kidds were so impressive. LeBrons were impressive. Jordans were so impressive when he did it in the 90s. It requires a lot. But we downplay Russell Westbrooks. And a lot of the main media heads, a lot of your talking heads, a lot of fans, they really downplayed the accomplishment. And so a buddy of mine shot a text in our group text and asked the question about the triple doubles is why someone had basically tweeted out this. They asked the question, why are we so bored? Westbrook is proof that people get bored with greatness. Media looks for the shiny new toy. That's very true. You always got to look for the new exciting thing because that's really kind of where you make your name. That's what gets the fans excited. That's what's honestly most important, is trying to be the first in something and really get out there with attention. And of course, Russ this season is averaging 22, 11, and 11, and he's not in the MVP talks. And so my buddy asked a question. He's like, why doesn't this translate to Steph Curry? I've got a few theories behind that. But I like the dialogue. You know, Jimmy jumps up and says that and I disagree with this in a way. I think a lot of it's true, but I disagree with most. He says the media sees Russ more as a villain, like an anti-hero type setup. And especially the way that he treated the media in the past with the Barry Trimble beef that he had or whatnot, and not really answering questions. And he called Steph everyone's favorite puppy. I'm going to leave that there, but I have a theory about what it is with that. Steph, to me, is doing something that everyone wants to do. Every player wants to score a whole bunch of points. Every fan wants to score a whole bunch of points. They cheer about scoring a whole bunch of points. They chastise players that don't score a whole bunch of points. They focus on points. Yes, in the end of the game, you have to score more points than the other team. But points aren't everything when it comes to basketball. But for majority of fans, that's the big thing. They feel like a whole bunch of points translates to wins. Even though we've had a lot of great players that have won scoring titles, that didn't translate to dubs. But that's not the point. So they feel like that thing is what translates to points translate to W's and all of that. And so with Russ, he's doing something that not everyone can do. He's doing something that requires a lot of hard work, a lot of planning, and ferocity. Like, you have to go after rebounds. You have to set your team up for assists and plan those out, because it's not something that just magically appears. It's not. Most fans don't want to work hard to get those accomplishments. They want it the easiest way possible. And Steph Curry is giving us the easiest way to a lot of points. He's making a shit ton of threes. That's his game. And because Steph Curry's talent is so rare, that is the shiny new toy. It's a rare talent that we go after. We gravitate to the player with mad hops. We gravitate to the player with crazy handles. We gravitate to the shooter. We don't gravitate to the hard worker, the grinder, even nowadays the post player, because it requires something that honestly everybody can do, but nobody wants to. Nobody wants to work hard. Please believe they don't want to do anything the hard way. We have applications out in this world that makes life easier for you. The goal in everything you do in life is to make your life easier. What Russell Westbrook does is not the easy way. He works his butt off to get to that point. And it bothers me is that that's not something that we want to applaud. Now, granted, he hasn't won the ultimate prize, which is championships. But at the same time, I don't blame Russ for that. Now, his inefficiencies, you can chastise him. You can also chastise Steph Curry for what he does. But the thing that Curry has that Curry has that Westbrook doesn't have is that even when Curry is his most inefficient with threes, he's still a threat. Because if he hits one, he's going to hit two. And he hits two, he hits three. And he hits three, he hits five. And it doesn't stop. Whereas with Russ, you can kind of just let him be inefficient for the game without realizing that he is known for cooking people that take advantage of his inefficiencies. He's still going to go out there and score. He's still going to work hard. He's still going to impact the game in more ways than just scoring the ball. And that's the thing that people overlook. Teams may give Russ space to shoot, but if they give him too much space, guess what he does? He drives right past him and get a layup. He does that. He'll get the rebound. He'll get the dime. He'll set up his teammates. He does that. But that's the thing we overlook. We overlook the hard work. That's what we overlook when it comes to Westbrook compared to Curry. And as well as the talent. Now, like I said, it's not really all Westbrook's fault that there's been underachievement. Stephen A. Smith is one great example of someone that's really jumped all over Westbrook for not being as successful as he should have been because he's played with Kevin Durant most of his career, without recognizing that there's a reason why they weren't so successful with Kevin Durant as teammates. Some of this we can blame Presti for, but at the same time, can't blame Presti for all of it. Presti probably should have done a better job of putting better players on the roster with them. Even though they had really good players on the roster, and it's really hard to do that when you're in a salary cap and you live in Oklahoma City. He did a great job of making a team that can compete every year. Because when you have star players, I don't know if y'all noticed, but star players play different than they do than a team of young guys that are just out there together. Boston's a perfect example. Now that those guys are becoming stars, they look completely different than they did 2 years ago. Pay attention to that stuff. So Presti put together this roster and he gave these players, he gave Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook players, but he couldn't account for the fact that they was going to have injuries. The Thunder were in basically injury purgatory for 4 years after the James Harden trade. And everyone thinks the James Harden trade shouldn't have been done, blah, 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 whatever. I don't think James would have stayed anyway. I don't think he was going to sign the contract. I think he was going to leave as a free agent. I think it's best that they traded him when they did. The reason why I think it's best they traded him when he did, because the year after they traded him, they won over 60 games. They were the number one seed in the West. Obviously, it wasn't that big of a deal that they lost James Harden. Where the big deal may have come in is the fact that they did lose Westbrook in the first round because of the Patrick Beverly injury. But guess what? What is one thing that James Harden has problems with every year? The playoffs. It's usually when he wears down. Now, you may think that he probably won't be as worn down with those two guys, but I still question that because he didn't look the same in the NBA Finals in 2012. Now, they were, granted, young, but my point still stands. What has Harden done in the playoffs since he's been the man on his roster with some really good teammates? Think about that. And so with this injury purgatory, even like Sam Presti gave them even like Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson's a really good basketball player. He's not that great. He's not Russell Westbrook. He thought he was Russell Westbrook, and he learned that really quickly and how he wasn't. Because after Westbrook went down, they beat the Rockets in the first round. Second round, they lost to Memphis 4-1 because it was Kevin Durant by himself. Reggie Jackson couldn't make an impact like he should have. If he was Russell Westbrook, he would have made an impact. You know what I'm saying? But of course, it's better to have 3 guns than it is to have 2. Next year, Jackson couldn't do it either when he had his big games against Memphis. He got his revenge. But then the Thunder lost Serge Ibaka right before the Spurs series, which was most key and critical because they needed that defender to stop Tim Duncan. And Kawhi Leonard went off instead. So overall, Presti was doing almost the impossible building this roster. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out the way it was. So to me, Russ deserves all the love that he's getting right now from the right people. And he actually deserves more. He deserves his flowers today. He got 182 triple-doubles. Nobody else got more than that. Oscar Robertson's held this record since the 70s. 50 years. Almost 50 years. 40-something years. Guys, please tell me, explain to me, if it was so easy, and everyone, and the biggest criticism, they call him a stat pattern. If it was so easy, why hasn't nobody else done it? Because it's in the record books, and this is a historic thing. It's so historic that we considered triple doubles a big deal up until Russell Westbrook started doing it. I mean, I don't know if y'all noticed that. It's to the point where we've gotten fatigue of Westbrook doing something that he always does. But we don't do that with Steph Curry and his threes. And that's kind of my point, is the reason why we don't do that to Steph Curry right now is because the three-pointer is what everybody wants to do. Nobody wants to work hard like Russell Westbrook, because that ain't the game. The game is to make as many shots, score as many points, to try to be as cool as possible doing it. And to close out on this, we talk about the stat padding piece. Why haven't we pointed out that Steph Curry stat pads? He's gone from shooting, what's this, 4 threes a game to start his career to 7 to 8 to 11 to 12 this year. He's shooting more threes this year than he has before. Why don't we call those that try to win the scoring title stat patters? That's right, because fans, especially casuals, care more about points than they do impact in the game. And it's obvious that Russell Westbrook has impacted the game because he wins. His teams win at a 75% clip for his career when he gets a triple-double at 182. So keep that in mind. If you win 3/4 of your games, wouldn't you want your guy to get a triple-double every single time? You would. Don't play yourself. You would.